and we're going to melt it. Now, don't put this on the fire. You don't want your gelatin to burn or to boil. I've got some warm water going here. I'm going to take my plastic container, set it right here in the warm water. I only want to emphasize it because if it gets too hot, like chocolate, it could ruin it. You can end up ruining the gelling power of your gelatin if it gets too warm. So I'm looking to get it like, this is warm water, and just looking to just barely melt this stuff. So I'm looking to get it maybe anything under 130 degrees. If it goes over 130, the gelling power starts to diminish. And if you get it up to boiling, you pretty much destroy the gelatin's ability. So I'm going to go ahead and just melt that down. I'm just kind of moving it side to side. I know you guys can't see it here in the camera, but it's starting to turn to a liquid. You guys can probably see that. It's starting to melt. And it just needs to melt. It doesn't need to get really hot, but it does need to melt, and we've got to mix that with our puree. Our puree is warm. Still warm from the stove and from the Vitamix. This stuff is, let's say, nice and smooth, but what you're going to want to make sure of is that it's warm. Not hot, not boiling hot. Remember, if it's boiling hot, it will make your gelatin boiling hot and ruin its gelling power. So I like to get it down to about 110, maybe 100 degrees. So it's too warm for the gelatin to gel, but it's too cold to cause any problems with the gelatin. The gelatin is now in a liquid form, as you can see, and it's been bloomed and then melted. I'm just going to take that and swirl it right in here to my puree. Because the temperatures are very similar, they're just going to marry together very nicely, and they're going to, the temperature is going to be fine, so the gelatin won't gel. And that's what's critical right now. So while this is now in here, it's going to, as soon as the gelatin gets cool again, it's going to gel up. It's going to get hard and rubbery. So I'm going to work fairly quickly now to get my eggs ready. In this case, I've got my 1½ of each here. I'm going to put that into my mixing bowl. 3 ounces of sugar in the mixing bowl. And I'm going to crank up my fire a little bit. And we're going to do it just like Swiss meringue. We're going to put it right on the boiling water. And I'm just going to get my gloved hand in there. I'm just going to swirl it around until I feel it get to 145 degrees Fahrenheit. How do you tell if it's 145? Anybody remember?
Real hot.
Yeah, hot like you can't stand it, right? Yeah, just like the hottest water out of your faucet at home. It's probably about that. That's right around 145. We don't want to cook the eggs, so I'm going to keep them moving. And I'm just going to keep them. I'm just going to keep my fingers like, in there so I can perceive when it's going to be the right temperature. You could use the thermometer if you want, but to me it takes so much time to pull out a thermometer that by that time the eggs have sat long enough where you could end up with some scrambled eggs at the bottom. So I'd just rather use my fingers as my thermometer. I think they're quicker and more accurate, at least for this application. Let me turn up the fire just a little bit. Let's go for 10. It's about bath water temperature right now, so it's getting there. And we're starting to get a simmer on the water, so that's starting to heat up quickly now because it's actually boiling down.
Theoretically, could you do your eggs first and have the puree ready to put the gelatin into it? So if you were concerned about your gelatin getting too cold?
You could. You could. I mean, you can also gently warm this up again if you need to. This is getting hot quick. Okay, half of that. Yeah, you know when it's time, just by the feel of it. I do it in a certain order here because I like to kind of control certain things, so I can control the gelatin pretty easily just by having it done And the eggs I don't have to worry about. I can walk away from the eggs because all they need to do now is come to full volume, as stiff peak as you can get them, and then they have to continue blending until, they continue whipping until they cool down. We want to get their temperature down to about the same temperature as our puree. After all, if they're too cold, they're going to cause the gelatin to start to solidify. So we've got to keep the temperature warm enough so that the gelatin will stay in a liquid form. So right now the gelatin is in here, it's doing just fine, it still feels warm to the touch. Big bath water temperature. Alright, so the other thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to whip some cream.